So now, let's meet our Ask Me Anything panelists. As I call out your name, please make your way to the stage. Start with Linda Gorens-Levey, partner with General Capital. Next is Jeff Hoffman, principal with Cushman and Wakefield, Boerke. Josh Jeffers, founder and CEO of J. Jefferson Company. Matt Moroney, CEO of Wangard Partners. Johnny Vassallo, developer and restaurateur. And Bruce Westling, managing director for Newmark. And then please welcome our panel moderator back to the stage, Andy Hunt, director for the Vieth Institute for Real Estate Leadership at Marquette University. Take it away, Andy.
Well, thank you, Andrew. And as our panelists get back and settled, I really want to thank BizTimes for inviting me back to be our moderator again. I set my calendar by this event every single year. In fact, it was 8 years ago that I started in this role as the director at Marquette. And this was the very first morning, my very first day, I came to this event where Mark Epley was moderating, had been moderating for a really long time. So shout out to Mark. Someone say hey to him for me. He'll be teaching in Italy in the spring if anybody needs to feel bad about themselves. And I thought Andy did a really great job of an impression of Mark with his number of slides. So I think we're really encouraging of that, and we're channeling him a little bit today. Thank you to our students who have joined. We have several ACRE students. Thank you to UWM, my colleagues there. Carolyn Eswine is here as well. So we have, whenever I see this room packed all the way to the back, it's a really good sign, and it means I think you're all in the right room today. And certainly you are, because you see who is in front of you. The way that I want everyone to think about this conversation today is like this. Each of us would love an opportunity to sit down with somebody really smart in real estate and ask them a bunch of these burning questions. What do you think about I-794? What do you think about the Edison? What are the corridors or the parts of the city that you think we should start investing in? Today's panel and this year's theme of Ask Me Anything is a little bit like that. A big group conversation like we're at a coffee shop and we're just asking our friends, what do you really think about this? Only this time they're going to be on record and there might be articles about whatever they say. So not that much different, though.
Andrew promised it was off the record, by the way.
Yeah. Which record is the question. All right, so we got you all started with our first question. We have 4 more questions, as Andrew mentioned. You can see it on the back of your programs. And if you can't tell, we have a little bit of a different format because I'm going to be walking around like I'm, somebody said Phil Donahue. I like Oprah, but we weren't able to do, and I'm sure Johnny would have been all about this, is get your gift cards taped under your seat. So we could say, you get a gift card, and you get a gift card, and everybody gets a gift card, which we did. So thanks for that again, Johnny. That was really, really kind of you. Let's launch into our first question. So we're going to start off with something easy. If you had $50 million to put to work, either with the development or purchase of an investment property, which of these hot or emerging areas are you targeting? So remember, this is the most audience-friendly BizTimes event that we've ever been to. So go ahead and start putting in your answers. I'm going to read the question again. You have $50 million to put to work, either in a development or purchase of an investment property. Which of these hot or emerging areas are you targeting? Wauwatosa, Oconomowoc, the rest of Waukesha County, hot neighborhoods outside of downtown Milwaukee, Jefferson County, or the I-94 north-south corridor? Lafayette's asking how many times he can vote. How many times do you usually vote? Nothing but love, Lafayette, nothing but love. All right, survey says, I've always wanted to say that. Survey says, Oconomowoc. I really like that one. Jeff, I think this is a great place to start with you. All right. So when we start, if people are wanting to put $50 million to work and they're thinking about Oconomowoc, why do you think they're thinking that way?
Available land with zoning and ready to go in a proactive community that wants to see development. You're seeing it across the board, and I think when you go out there, the original vision of Pabst Farm has taken 20 years to get there, but right now when you get to the mixture of the development, I think that's what's appealing. It's drawing a bunch of different types of investors and people that want the lifestyle out there. You're seeing industrial, and I think a very interesting development that occurred out there that, again, when it was proposed, I'm like, the Dockhound Stadium, right? Looks great from the freeway. It's being used as community events. I don't know if they make money or not, but it's kind of that anchor alternative use that you're seeing in communities that's being very successful, and you're seeing build out on that. And I think you're seeing now the Costco's following and the remaining land, and Cobalt's got a huge project that's being discussed now. But I think the mixture of the different types of uses is really what's driving the interest out there.
Demographics.
Yeah.
What was that, Linda?
The demographics, too.
Go on.
I was just saying there's been a lot of population growth west.
I mean, Jefferson County was one of the emerging areas, but we're not quite there in Oconomowoc. But we're directionally there's some momentum there. So I'm glad that you brought that up, Jeff. I'm glad you mentioned Costco. I just figured that was the reason, but I know there's other stuff going on as well. And Scott, I have to mention, where's Scott Yauk?
Right here.
Can't miss him.
Scott, are you signing that GQ cover? Are you doing autographs for the BizTimes? I hope so. That was pretty great. So Matt, you guys have been out in Oconomowoc for a while.
We love it.
Yeah, you've been focused on this
Yep.
quite a bit.
Yep.
Tell us why you've been excited about it.
So great schools, great rent growth out there as far as the apartment side, emerging retail out there as well. I think that's really coming back to life. But most importantly, a great community to work with. They want to problem solve and make things happen. And this has been a vision of the community for many, many years. I can remember when I was at the Home Builders, in the early 2000s, going to Oconomowoc and meeting a guy called Bob Duffy. It says, hey, I have this vision. We're going to make it happen. And, and he has, right? But I think the other thing that they've done really, really well, the current mayor, when I first got started working out there, there was a lot of different opinions on the council. And he got everybody together and say, all right, for this, redevelopment property, what do we want to do? What are our priorities? And had them kind of lay that out for us proactively so that we can know what the target was and really work with them. And I will say there's probably not a better community to work with from our perspective than Oconomowoc. And they also are willing to financially help, right? Because these properties, a lot of times development, we need municipal financial help, and they're willing to do it.
It's incredible what a friendly community from a development standpoint can do for their own growth. Did you have a comment to that as well, Linda?
Where are my Exonia Bank people? I know you're here. There you are, waving. So I'm a director at Exonia Bank, and the board of directors actually serves as the credit committee at the bank, and we're a boutique, and we've grown, and they were out in that area between Milwaukee and Madison. There's tremendous banks here, as you mentioned, in this area. Andy mentioned this. But it's been a great place in terms of the lending community. We've been active in the real estate lending area as well, but we've seen tremendous growth in that market.
So we got good demographics. We have a really pro-development, pro-growth city, and we've got some really exciting projects with land available that we can build on. That makes a lot of sense for Oconomowoc. Let's bring the survey back up and let's see what our second place was for this question, because there's a lot of good, let's go back one. There's a lot of good options on here. Hot neighborhoods outside of downtown Milwaukee was our second place, and the rest of Waukesha County was our third place. I kind of like that. So hot neighborhoods outside of downtown Milwaukee. Johnny, for some reason, I feel like you have something to say about this. Although you have something to say about everything, I know, which is why we love you and we have you here.
I have an opinion on most things, yes.
Why do you think that the number 2 result was hot neighborhoods outside of downtown Milwaukee? You've looked at this a little bit. You've got places outside of downtown Milwaukee.
I was just curious why downtown Milwaukee wasn't an option.
Would that be your...
Well, it'd be number 1.
That's fair. Go on.
But outside of downtown, I would say Fifth Ward, I think, has a tremendous opportunity to really create some incubators and really develop into something really special from a tech standpoint. I also like the airport. If you had a big tract of land and an opportunity zone close to the airport, I think you'd be really happy.
I like that. Josh, how about you? Hot areas outside of downtown Milwaukee, you're looking at this.
Yeah, I like Walker's Point. There's a lot going on down there. Third Ward is always pretty consistently active. I can tell you, unfortunately, one area that has been hurting a lot is the whole North Avenue corridor on the Upper East Side. We have some properties over there, and it is not what it used to be. And I've been spending a lot of time thinking about this lately, like what happened? This used to be such a great area of activity, and I think it can come back, but I think what it is there has been so much development in Walker's Point or the Fifth Ward, and it's drawing a lot of that younger population that tends to live in downtown or live in Milwaukee in general. But you go there on a Saturday or a Sunday or even in the middle of the day on a Wednesday, and it's hopping. There's a lot going on down there.
How's your, I don't know if I can say the word, so I'm gonna say he who must not be named Commons project. Can I say Journal Commons, Stan? Would that be bad? How's that project going as it relates to the comments that you're making right now?
Yeah, so Journal Commons is actually doing pretty well. That one is right outside the periphery of the Deer District. And, we see a lot of activity there on the rental side. What's been a little bit of a challenge is we've had this retail space on the ground floor, about 13,000 feet. It's the old circulation desk. And this was a historic rehab that followed all the preservation standards. So if I could magically transport us to that space right now, it is untouched by time. It is the Journal Sentinel circulation desk still. So again, being right outside the Deer District, there are some standards, some regulations. There are certain types of tenants that can't be physically in the Deer District. We're right across the street, so we see all of them. But these last, 3-4 years, Andy commented on some of the pain out there. It's been very hard. We've been so close with so many tenants that just, in the 11th hour, they haven't been able to make it. So we're actually pivoting, and we're going to turn that ground floor space into everyone's favorite, more apartments, which there's a little loophole that allows us to do this. It's actually very difficult to build ground floor apartments, but that space is elevated about 3.5 feet off the street level, so they're not technically ground floor apartments. But yeah, from a residential perspective, it's been doing very well.
It's great. Lafayette, don't
Andy-
close that loophole.
Andy, let's bring it back to what you really asked about, which is Waukesha County.
Yeah.
And the third quarter multifamily report just came out from 2025, and actually the strongest market was Waukesha, which had almost a 98% occupancy rate at the end of the third quarter, followed by Eastern Waukesha, which was at 97. And Milwaukee actually had the lowest rent growth, and that's because, this quarter was the lowest delivery of units, and so you're finally, since 2018. And so you're finally starting to swallow, what you've had in terms of the delivery of units. And so looking forward, 2026 should be better, but you're seeing a lot of concessions in the luxury market right now in downtown Milwaukee. And so the outlying areas like Waukesha are actually stronger performers than you're seeing in the other areas. Wauwatosa and West Allis were the next better performing markets than Waukesha.
Great. Thank you, Linda. Great points. It's to me, as a non-Milwaukeean, talking about West Allis being the hot place to live today, I hear it's strange, but West Allis sounds great to me as an outsider. So maybe that's the whole point, right? Bruce.
I would catch up on a couple things. First of all, I'm going to echo Matt on Bob Duffy and the work he does out in Oconomowoc. I think that's a huge leg up that they have out there. And I also think when you look at how the large format retail has finally caught up to be on that putting that flag in the ground on the west side. When you look at how the market's traded over the years, I think it took them a while to get comfortable with large format. I know they had dreams of some other types of centers, anchored by more high fashion, that type of thing, fashion department stores, but reality, I think, has crept in, and the large format, and you couple that with the quaintness of the downtown areas And, Delafield's right there and the work that they've done with Hendricks. I mean, it's a really unique situation when it comes to quality of life. All the outdoor activities, and then you start to bring in that retail, and you throw Bob in the mix. It's a really winning combination. Quick thing on the downtown, I would hit the third ward harder than we have. I would do whatever I could to make the ICC happen. Gagliano is sitting there. I would be proactive as a city to get after that. What can we do to make that happen? And the other, outside of downtown, I tried to build a grocery store way back many, many years ago at 35th and Capitol. And I always believed that with that traffic pattern out there, that it's a shame that we haven't been able to get something out of the ground out in that neck of the woods. Clearly a food desert. I would just throw that out to this whole group, and who knows what happens, but I would throw those out.
I think you need to go a little bit deeper on make the ICC happen. Make sure that everyone in the audience understands what you mean by that.
Well, I think in some ways you've got the situation with the ICC, you've got a fairly seasoned, let's say, board of directors. It's hard to get them going in the same direction. I think it's an opportunity to continue the street grid down there. That is developable land up against, I think Summerfest is doing more and more things. They're trying to activate that. So I think the city, it's kind of like sitting down, what can we do? And also working with the people who are doing work in that area, because there is a ton of demand and very little space, and we're driving rents in the third ward. And we're driving rents because the sales support it.
Mm-hmm. There's so many connections here to things like what's going on with I-94 East-West, and Bruce, when hearing you talk about this, I think about things like we're here in Brookfield Square, and my friend David Krill is talking about how he was presenting about that deal 25, 30 years ago, maybe before. Then you had the corridor, which is pulling us out even further, and now we're connecting this to what's going on from a retail standpoint in Economowalk as well. There's so many ties that seem to bind a lot of these things. Some of this we're going to get to in future questions, though, because we'll talk about some of this corridor stuff. Let's, any final comments about hot places from our panel? Places that you're excited about?
Andy, I would just state the region as a whole, the amount of CapEx that we are seeing from large companies. Rockwell was announced yesterday, which, and I've been doing this for 25 years. Milwaukee is known as the machine shop of the world. If you go back to the legacy industrial companies that are still around, Rockwell, Harley, A.O. Smith, Regal Rexnord, Briggs, none of them have done a greenfield site in this state in 40 plus years. That is an unbelievable announcement for this region, and it's just GE Healthcare out here, $100 million, all the data. It's announcement after announcement. We are in an investment super cycle, I think, in this region right now.
It's funny, one of the things that we were thinking about talking about here was we haven't necessarily heard about any major new office moves to downtown Milwaukee. We actually heard about some of those through the cycle even, but now here we are talking about, well, maybe in manufacturing, and some of our major players there are making some moves. Even Harley, you mentioned, they have a return to office with a new CEO, and the excitement around some of that, who knows what happens, right? So really good point. Thanks for that, Jeff. Let's keep moving. Next question. Audience, grab your phones. Most friendly BizTimes audience event that we've ever done. Next question is, which of these residential and housing-focused topics do you want our panel to address first? So I think what that means is we'll try to address all of them, but which one should we start with? And there are some big ones. A would be oversaturated high-end multifamily. B would be promoting affordable and workforce housing. C would be Class B office conversions. And D would be dealing with NIMBYs. Which, if you don't know, this is one of my favorites. Not in my backyard. And if you've just learned that now, you are welcome to go. You've learned what you need for the day. You've learned. You've hit it. This is huge. You now know what a NIMBY is. Not in my backyard. Let's see the results. Oversaturated high-end multifamily is by far leading us here, and then promoting affordable and workforce housing. I think this is going a little bit in order of what the voting was, so we can be, well, I guess we didn't with the last question, so I think we're a little bit okay with that. Let's start. Josh, I feel like you're a good one to start on this.
It's one of my favorite topics.
What's on your mind? It's just you and me having coffee. What do you think about all this
Yeah.
oversaturated housing?
Yeah, there is oversaturated housing. I think actually the oversaturated housing is connected to the need for more workforce and affordable housing development. Because for the last, really actually coming out of the last cycle, going back to 2012, 2013, when capital markets started to pick up again, there's just been a nonstop, production machine of apartments getting built in downtown Milwaukee. And they've almost been all market rate, financed with cheap debt, readily available equity dollars. And there was a time when you could get a parcel of land, put it under contract, hire an architect, build your apartment building, and it would lease right up. It could be anywhere, and people would lease apartment units. Over the last couple of years, we're seeing all of a sudden it's been a lot harder to get new development done. And I would say now is not the world's greatest time to be a downtown multifamily landlord because, like I said before, it used to be you could build anything anywhere and it would lease. Now, concessions are up, vacancies are up, you're competing for tenants in other buildings. And while I think there is still ultimately I think there is actually a demand-supply imbalance. Downtown needs more housing, neighborhoods need more housing. But what I think we're seeing is there are just only so many people in Milwaukee that can afford to pay $3,000 a month or more for apartment units. And so then this gets into the question of, how do we get more workforce housing development done? How do we get more affordable housing done? I'll just say, we are in closing mode right now on a project at Block 5 in the Deer District. This is the parcel of land that is right next to the Trade Hotel. It's directly east of the Trade Hotel. We've been working on this in partnership with the Milwaukee Bucks for about 3 years. This was a market rate development all the way up until last summer. It's located in an opportunity zone. We all love opportunity zones here. And we were shopping it. We were talking to private equity investors all over the country. It was hard to get them sold on downtown Milwaukee, just seeing the fundamentals, seeing vacancies going up, rents going down, more concessions. And so we pivoted on this project. It's probably, in retrospect, I guess I will go on the record and congratulate myself. It's probably one of the top 3 things we've done in 2025 was pivoting that project to being an affordable housing development because now we finally found a path for it. I think it's financially feasible. And it also fits a need that is over the top. There's such a demand for affordable housing, specifically in the downtown and in that Deer District area.
It's really related, right? The A and B and these questions were saturation, and then we need more of this workforce and affordable housing. And there's some big projects in town that we might be talking about later that come up with this. Johnny, I want to get to you a little bit. So, man, we have all these luxury apartments that we've been building. These are the people that are coming to Moe's, right? This is you got to love this for some reason. What's your opinion on the saturation?
I honestly don't think we're oversaturated.
Let's hear this.
So, 2 things. One, I think we should build as many apartments as we possibly can. And for the benefit of the city, the more apartments we build, if we can get them financed, the better it is for the city. And we want to grow, so I think we should build them. With 100 East, I'm really confident that we're going to build the nicest apartment building that's ever been built in downtown Milwaukee. And I'm also very confident we will rent it up.
So you would say, build, baby, build.
I just think you just build. We brought Jay Parsons in to meet with the city. We're bringing him back again in February. And he's a very notable apartment analyst, and he believes that, like what happened in Austin, there's definitely cycles where you overbuild, but it lowers rents. And so he also believes, and I agree with him, the more Class A apartments you build, the more, I'll give you his favorite quote. When you build a Class A building, somebody who is squatting on a Class B space will now go to a Class A space if you make it nice enough. And so if you believe that people can pay 25 to 30% of their household income for rent, I disagree. I think there are plenty of people that can pay $3,000 a month for rent.
It's good for us to hear another opinion about let's just build more. And we've done some research at Marquette that shows that if you want to drive population growth, building more units, it can really help with that. Now, that's a nuanced conversation, but I like hearing this. Matt, this is something that I think you had some interesting things to say about as well. This idea of saturation. What are your thoughts on this?
Depends on the market, from our perspective. Downtown, I think the issue is, in our industry, I think construction costs have gone up so much that it's almost impossible to build for that missing middle, not the super high-end Class A, that missing middle. And our policies from a city and state perspective are not there to really help facilitate the growth of that type of household, and not only in city of Milwaukee, but throughout. And so I think, one of our criteria that we look at when we look at building in a community, can we get, financial assistance from the community? Otherwise, it doesn't pencil. There's very few markets that you can go into without financial assistance from the city, and it'll pencil. And I know the city of Milwaukee's been having some discussions about TIF, and those are good discussions, but they've got to figure out how to help that missing middle product. And I think you'll see the population grow in the city of Milwaukee, which I think is something we all share. A healthy city of Milwaukee helps the entire region.
Amen. Bruce, let's stick with you for a second on this side.
My job is to amenitize. These guys build them. We do our best to bring the best retail, the best, F&B, make sure, we fill storefronts. I guess one piece of that, what I'd like to see from the city to help effectuate that is to streamline permitting process for tenants that are leasing commercial space in Milwaukee, especially downtown Milwaukee. There's no reason why a lease should take from letter of intent to execution to 120, 180 days to get the space built out. In my mind, there should be a department within the permitting area that is focused just on streamlining tenants to get them in so they're paying rent and paying taxes. Sooner that we can do that, we can amenitize and these guys can build.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, what do you think the vacancy is for downtown retail space?
I mean, I don't have it off the top of my head, but I
50%?
see Kevin Schmelt out here, but I'm
50,
guessing it's going to
50%?
be, it'll be 20 to 25% overall. But you also have a lot of building owners that they're not going to put money into a deal. They don't. Most of the empty storefronts, especially, you can, North Wisconsin Avenue. You look in, you peek in, it looks the same as it's looked for years. And there's not a lot of money from either the people who own those buildings to understand what a national or even a better regional tenant is going to need, as well as the locals. I mean, locals are we've got a great stable of local tenants in this city. And that's why we've got so many nationals downtown, is because they want to be near the good locals.
Good.
Matt, it's not just the market rate development. So Hines and Couture came out at the same time, which wasn't intended, which delivered a lot of supply of high-end. These developments have had to be high-end with high-end rentals because of the construction costs. It's not just local and state policy. You've got BABA, you've got Build America, Buy America, which has also introduced supply constraints and extenuated the construction time frame. Then you had the project, which we shall talk about later, the Edison coming on as well, which will be a mess for a while. Plus the Market Center, which may or may not bring on more housing if it gets done. And so you have a lot of supply that's hit the market all at the same time, and you've got the two projects that are large that are going to hit a renewal cycle at the same time, which is why you've had 2 months free concession plus parking concession happening at the same time. It's also hit the affordable tax credit at the same time, where WIDA, well-intended, now has focused their tax credits on rural areas. And so you have kind of a little bit of a perfect storm happening right now in multifamily housing.
Let's bring up the poll one more time, because I think there's 2 or 3 more nuggets that we can bring out of this question. The second was promoting affordable and workforce housing. The third was Class B office conversions. Really? No, we don't want to talk about NIMBYs? I explained to you what that meant.
Nobody likes NIMBYs.
You just got to deal with it.
There's a lot of lessons in that. I do want to talk about these office conversions a little bit. So 2 big deals. Josh, you've worked on one. You're good. You're going.
Yeah.
Johnny, you've got one going with 100 East. Let's start with you, Josh,
Sure.
and then we'll come to Johnny. Tell us about how that project went. Do you think there's a lot more office conversions coming, or do you think that it's only here and there?
No, I think there are a lot more office conversions coming. We love office conversions. You know, one of the corollaries of there not being as much demand for office space anymore is that some of the Class C and Class B office buildings need a new use, right? And some of them are not that old. The thing that we found, you know, we tend to gravitate towards a lot of historic rehab and historic buildings. And one of the things we found is that older buildings, you know, built typically 80, 90, 100 years ago or more, you know, these were buildings that were built with smaller floor plates and more of a focus on natural light and getting fresh air into buildings. Those are the best conversions because, again, smaller floor plate, they're more conducive to a conversion to whatever other use. The more challenging ones are the much bigger office complexes that were built, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Those buildings might have huge floor plates, a lot of special use areas. It's way harder to convert those.
So, and deal's going well? What do you?
Yeah, well, the other thing we like to do is if we can get them certified as historic structures, as Johnny has also done on his 100 East project, you know, now that taps into a subsidy that it would otherwise not be available. Mm-hmm. So, again, I'm just gonna say, Andy, that was a fantastic presentation that you did. I got a lot out of that. Yes.
Good job, Andy.
One of the things, I mean, just speaking from my own experience, you know, having gone through this, you know, this down cycle over the last 4 or 5 years, you know, with a lot of our projects, we use historic tax credits and other forms of tax credit equity in our deals, which means we have less debt. So congratulations, we survived, you know, bankruptcy, but we do have like double the mortgage on a lot of our properties right now. But I've found that, you know, these buildings that have tax credits in them, like there's a path. There's a way to kind of navigate through and, you know, make the project work.
You know, Johnny, I know you guys have been layering a lot to get to that path for 100 East, and thank goodness, because conversion there feels like a win for the city. Thank you. Tell us a little bit more about that project and how it's going. When do you expect to open?
I think we'll start construction Q1 of 26. We should deliver Q3 at 27, Q4. Yeah. And first of all, I want to thank Lafayette and his entire team and the Common Council and the Mayor's office for really working hard with us to come up with a solution that works, because that building needs a lot and it's so expensive to do it. But it's going to be just an amazing project, and we couldn't do it without the help of the city of Milwaukee. So thank you very much. It's going to be an incredible building, and it's a unicorn. It's got 14-foot deck heights. The floor plate was the perfect size, so it's beautiful from the outside. So it is a significant building. I am super, super proud to be associated with it, to be working with it, and I'm a huge fan of Milwaukee, and I believe that, you know, Milwaukee is the best place to live in the country. I've been able to live wherever I want. I really like it here. And I think we'll get the growth that we want. There's just a few corrective actions, and then anybody here like to see interest rates come down 200 basis points? Because I don't agree with Andy. I think they're going to come down, and they're going to come down artificially. I don't even think it's a good idea. But I think that the new Fed chair will force the interest rates down. Whoever gets picked. It could be you, Andy.
And then we'll say we knew him when he was at that BizTimes event. We all feel good about that. Well, great. Let's keep moving.
He's climbed so far from being
He has climbed so far.
That could
from
be the
his
next
days
step.
as a student. Yes.
Andy, I think there's a misconception that a conversion
Yeah, Linda.
will be less expensive, and Johnny V will tell you that the conversion isn't less expensive than building.
It's not.
Is that why?
It seems like it's not possible, right? You're like, how in the world could this be so expensive? But when we redid Posner Building at MKE Lofts, Joe, you guys were a big help over at Hush. It was more expensive to convert it than it would have been to tear down the Posner Building and start from scratch. It was actually $2 million cheaper, which is just mind-boggling, right? But that deal worked out pretty well. Thank you.
Great point. Let's go to the next question. Get your phones out. Oh, now it's getting good. Which of these major development topics should the panel address first? We have stalled projects, the Edison and the Iron District, I-794, the Market Center parking structure site, the American Family Field surrounding land, Northwestern Mutual's Franklin campus, and the impact of data center development. Interesting that A and C are in the same neighborhood. You know, as you vote, we had our gala and gave our Deal of the Year award just recently to the Baird Center, which is an incredible project. And I was laughing because as I stood in the window at the Marcus Center for Performing Arts, and I was looking at the Baird Center, and then I turned to my right and I saw the Edison, and then I turned a little bit more to the right, and I saw the Marcus Garage, and I thought to myself, oh boy, this is a lot of exciting stuff. Let's see what you said. Survey says, why did I have a feeling we were going to talk about the Edison first? Oh, and the Deer District. Or sorry, I mean, not the Deer District. The Deer District is great. The Iron District. All right. Unsurprisingly, this has been in the news quite a bit lately. I'm curious, Johnny, I feel like you're a great person to start with on this one for some reason.
Really?
Yeah. Tell us what you think about the stalling of the Edison and or the Iron District. See, I'm giving you some leeway.
I appreciate that. I'll speak to the Edison. I think in the current environment, no one could have made that math work. Scott, maybe, from Cobalt. I mean, he's the smartest guy I know, but other than Scott, I don't know anyone that could have possibly made that work. You would need $100 million in TIF. Somehow you'd have to figure that out. When they explained to me the math one day, I was just like, I mean, people are saying we are overbuilt on luxury. I think they were shooting for like $430 a foot in rent. Mm-hmm. I mean, people are struggling at $370, and I mean, $430 in rent. Josh, you got $430 in rent anywhere?
I'd love to, but no.
So I think it was impossible from the start. Do you disagree?
No. But maybe I should push back a little bit. But build, baby, build, right?
Yeah, if they had the equity partner that was willing to put up $100 million and take the chance at a 4 cap, you don't get a 4% return on $100 million. There's people out there, maybe Bezos's ex. I mean, she donates billions of dollars every year. Maybe somebody meets her and she says, I'll put $120 million in it and I'll take a 3% return. Then it probably works. So build, baby, build. Let's get a hold of Mackenzie.
I knew you would get there, and this is what we love. Josh, I'm sure you've been watching.
I've been watching.
For just as long as we have. What an interesting situation here in downtown Milwaukee. First of all, can you remember another site that's shut down like this?
I can't, in all honesty. No, it's an unusual situation.
Mm-hmm.
I give you kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly on this one. You know, in reverse order. I think the ugly is what it is right now, right? I mean, it's a project that's partially completed. There's a lot of money that's been sunk into it. It may or may not be reusable. You know, you've got liens accumulating. That's not good. The bad is, you know, it's sort of a life lesson for all of us. That was the ugly. That was the ugly. The ugly is our liens and legal problem. Nobody wants to be dealing with that. The bad is this is a case study in why you got to have all of your financing locked in before you close on a project. I mean, that is just the reality. The good, I do want to say some good things about this because it's actually a very impressive developer. It's a very impressive project. I think one thing that kind of skews people's brains with this project is just how big it is, right? If I were to sit here and say, I've got a $20 million project right now and a $2.5 million cost overrun, you know, there might be a way of making that work, right? That doesn't sound so bad. And this is basically the same thing, but it's just add a zero. It's a $200 million project, and they've got $25 million of cost overruns. $25 million sounds like this unbelievable amount of money, but on a project of that scale, you know, and I think you're right, Johnny, about like they want super high rents, but there are all kinds of things going on in the design package of this building. I mean, you know, it's this timber superstar building with, you know, Italian marble coming in and chandeliers and pools outside. There's a lot going on there that could, that probably people aren't going to pay for in this market, right? So you could probably lop a lot of that out of the project, get lower rents. I would say if there was enough time, there's probably a path on that project. There probably is a way to unravel it, repackage it, get it done. But the question is time.
Yeah.
There's a reason I call you Diamond Boy.
Wait,
Would you like to explain that story?
Wait,
No,
No.
Linda.
sorry, it's an inside joke.
It'll always be our inside joke.
From the school of Andy, the first Andy from Midlock, I think you have to do a few workouts. These guys were young, hadn't really been through a couple cycles. The pro forma really never worked. And, you know, good for them, but their project in Madison also has liens against it, the Baker, as well as this one. So unfortunately, this is going to be tied up for a while. And they're probably, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some lawsuit, investor law, you know, I don't know. It's going to take a while to unwind, and probably costs will increase on it, and the site will be tied up for a while, and so I think it's going to be a mess for a while. And you mentioned the Marcus Center, so I have to tell our cute story from the gala. There was an honoree, and it's a purely Milwaukee story, David Mayhood, who was the honoree for the night at the Marquette Real Estate Gala, who owns a large company, and he's been very philanthropic. And he was late to the event. So he got into the Uber, and he asked them to take him to the Bradley Pavilion, which is the event space at the Marcus Center. The Uber driver didn't speak English and took him to the Fiserv Forum, which used to be the Bradley Center, where the Bucks were playing. And he got out, and he asked everybody, where's the Bradley Pavilion? And he talked to a policeman. So the policeman said, get in the car and I'll take you to the Bradley Pavilion. And so he got a chauffeur police ride to the Bradley Pavilion at the Marcus Center for the evening, which is a very Milwaukee story.
Very.
But the Bradley site is also really complicated because the land underneath the Marcus Center for Performing Arts is owned by the city. The land under the Lafayette, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the land under the parking structure is owned by the city. The county owns the Marcus Center for the Performing Arts, which the Marcus Center operates, and the Marcus Center owns the parking structure. So you saw that
There will be a quiz.
that
It's-
people that
it's a
did
lot, Linda.
That is a lot. It's very complicated. So there's multiple parties at the table. It's been going on for a while. For a while, Ergens had the Ovation Project. This was 20 years ago. They pulled the project from the developers of the Edison, and it went back to Newland and back to Brandon Rule, and are talking to a couple of their developers to figure out the Marcus Center development. But that's also going to be, you know, a while, and that will be a development also that will probably include some, I guess, is some combination of some type of mixed-use development.
I actually appreciate a little bit of the positivity around the importance of these sites. And by the way, if somebody, maybe we should be naming something else Bradley, so that, you know, Uber drivers can bring them there. But, you know, I don't want us to not bring up the Iron District. And Bruce, I feel like I'd really love your thoughts on this. You know, between the Marcus parking site, you know, Edison site, the Iron District, and these are really important areas to the city. And we really want to see them be successful, but the stalling is unfortunate. What are you seeing and hearing?
Well, we've all been kind of hearing the same thing for a couple of years now. I keep hearing things behind the scenes that it is progressing, that especially the soccer component, which I think is the catalyst. But I got to tell you, I mean, I'm not thrilled with the building that was built. The apartment project is on the on-ramp to 43. I'm sorry, it looks like a building that could be in Shawano. It had no business looking like that, opposite of the Marquette Law School, and on this side we have looks like a Super 8. So that part bothers me.
But you'd prefer there's a stadium actually in that area.
If they're
to draw
going to
your
build
attention.
residential, let's build it. It doesn't have to look like it's something less than what it should be. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having that building being just be more appealing. It's right there. I mean, literally at the epicenter of our entire downtown, and we've got a building, to me, that could have been a lot better done. So I would like to think that as the Iron District progresses, which I hope it will, and I think there's a lot of interest to see that happen, that we will have a better handle on aesthetics as well as traffic flow, et cetera. And that will dovetail into 794 if we get to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, so speaking of that, let's bring the poll back up because we spent a lot of time on this. There's a lot of really good stuff to say here. So our second is I-794. This has certainly been in the news a little bit recently. Shout out to CARW for the survey, or for the report that was done on the economic impacts. I think we all really love the idea of, I think a lot of us like big ideas. Taking down I-794 is a really big idea. I know that there are a lot of things that kind of come up when you think about that. But everyone kind of wants to hear your opinions. Now, Jeff, I know that you're out there, but you're also a transportation guy, and we haven't heard from you in a while on this panel. So, given that most of your stuff is maybe outside of the city, tell us what your thoughts are on I-794.
I look at it strictly from the logistic transportation part about just how you're getting people and goods throughout the region. It's a good big idea, but I think when you get into the technicality of it, the resources needed to take that down, which would be extensive, is that the best use of the money right now regionally? Again, I'm a transportation guy, so I'm against it, but I could see the future, but I think logistically it doesn't make a lot of sense in my world.
Matt, what are your thoughts?
So as a developer, our job is to really figure out how people live, work, and play. And commuting is a big part of a lot of people's lives, right? And I think it's a bad idea, and I'll say that right up front. I think we've got major employers right there in that area that it would dramatically impact, their ability to get people to the downtown area. And we've spent a lot of money trying to interconnect, the south side to the downtown district and all that kind of stuff. And to reverse course on it, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense.
Bruce?
I'll add one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
I will
Matt.
hear from people out in Waukesha County that commute into Milwaukee, and just with the little bit of I-94, reducing it down to one lane, they're already making plans on, hey, I'm not going to be in the office as much, right? Is that what we want for our downtown? I don't think so.
I'll try to be brief if I can. First of all, I want to give all due respect to Guard P-Corps and Taylor Corsland. They're the youngsters, and I have kids their age, so I can say that. I respect what they want to do, and I think they're super creative and super smart, and they've got a great coalition of folks behind them, and I think they've done a great job in lobbying with the city. But with that being said, two of the big things they put forth is, first of all this developable land that's going to be created is one thing they talk about, and the other one is reconnecting the grid. Well, reconnecting the grid west of the river, there's no grid to reconnect. It goes to St. Paul, intermodal, river, you're done. So there's no real grid reconnection going on there. And to the east, I think with the rebuild, reconfiguring the area that wasn't just built 8 years ago when the Marquette was done, actually, I think you're getting more connections with that than you are with the tear down component. You also have, I mentioned the ICC land. You've got ICC, you've got Granger, you've got Gagliano ×2, you've got Tropic Banana, you've got Salvation Army, you've got the Patsy and Paul lot next to Central Standard, you've got sites west of the river, you've got a number of surface parking lots and properties that are redevelopable. I'd like to see the city, again, get proactive on that. I guess the most important part to me is the third ward retail microeconomy, if you will. It's been, I think Anthropology opened there in '06. If you go back in time when the National started to come in, and you have this great group of local tenants, we're driving rents there into the low 40s per square foot. A lot of people thought that would never happen. So we're getting 40 plus 10, so $50 gross rents, which means the sales are reflecting that. West Elm just extended for 5 years. You've got a bunch of 10-year deals. What I wouldn't want to do is, because if you tear that down, it's a 5-year project. Somebody can tell me it's 3.5 years. It's a 5-year project. And so you can't just press pause on that area and say, hang on, guys. And so in the meantime, you're going to have leases coming up, options that are going to be, say, forget it, we'll go back, we'll come west, because the market is east-west. Bayshore is not, and I, with all due respect to people south of 94, I don't think of it a lot when it comes to retail. Large format's one thing, but certainly not lifestyle, that type of thing. So you've got this linear east-west market. You take that down, and we talked a little bit about some of the hot areas out of downtown. Look what Shorewood's done with Oakland. Whitefish Bay has really come back on Silver Spring. Grafton, doing their downtown thing. Delafield's off the charts. Tosa downtown. People create new habits. Over 8 million people come a year, half of which are from out of like 20 minutes away into the third ward each year. So if you start losing tenants, losing sales, dropping property taxes, you're kind of killing the golden goose, which really is a huge draw for downtown Milwaukee. What I would do is take that money and connect a neighborhood that needs to be connected, and I would cap the freeway on 43, say from north to right, in that ballpark. Cap the freeway, create the green space, connect those neighborhoods, which really were hurt by the freeway system.
That is, first of all, I'm glad you brought up Garden Taylor. We need people coming with big ideas forever here in Milwaukee. And we have a history of that in this city, so God bless it that it's happening. Capping is a really, really interesting idea in terms of reconnecting neighborhoods, and I know that that's happened in other cities as well. It probably doesn't get enough attention. I want us to ask one more thing on the, Linda, do you have a comment first?
I would encourage you, the full study, for those who like to read the full study, is available. You can actually find it. You can email Tracy and she'll send it to you for the entire study. Because there's 3 alternatives, and the economic impact is here. They studied the shipping, the logistics, which was impacted 118 billion. The workforce was 440 million, and then the people that come in for the day was 2.5 million. Tracy, those are the numbers. But then there's suggestions for future study. And I think one of the things we also need to do is, I understand this study did not include the city of Milwaukee. And so I think one of the things too that the city of Milwaukee, Lafayette, you're here, and the city of Milwaukee's doing another study, is that right? On 794 and the impacts? Maybe? No? Pardon me?
DOT.
DOT is doing another study. So it's really compelling, and everything that you said is really compelling. But I don't think that we have all the information yet and all the data. And I think we need to bring everybody in the room together to come up with a comprehensive solution where all parties are sitting at the table together to find a solution that works for everybody. But the data is really compelling that was published. But we need to also include the people at the city at the table too.
And it brings up, having more data and more information has been really helpful.
Yes.
No matter the situation. But this brings up the question I wanted to ask each of you, which was essentially, I have sensed a shift of momentum.
Yes.
In terms of interest in taking down I-794 over the last several years from when it first came up.
To redesign.
Or redesign as well, but things like that. Tracy, I'm pretty sure that in past CARW surveys, we've asked about this, and there has been some support, maybe even majority support, for considering taking down I-794. Do you think it's because, why do you think that perception has changed, what we might be feeling this perception changing, that those of us in the community are starting to support it less, Linda? Do you think it's all about that data?
I think information is critical to making informed decisions.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Josh?
Taking down the 794 highway? I think it's a big idea, it's a radical idea, it's a very cool idea, but I think it's probably 15 years too late. You know, if you go back to so first of all, a lot of the 794 highway is already rebuilt in the 20-teens. You know, if you remember 20 years ago, before it was rebuilt, I mean, Bruce and I have talked about this. You know, the old highway, first of all, it was much closer to the ground. It was falling apart. Even on a nice, clear, sunny day, you'd walk underneath it and like try to avoid rebar, and it'd always be dripping at all times. There's no rain, but it's still dripping. You know, it was like the Berlin Wall. You had this incredible development in the Third Ward that was so great, and then it just died at this Berlin Wall that just divided downtown. And yes, at that time, I could see people saying, like, we gotta just get rid of this thing. Just get rid of it. Have that Third Ward development keep going north. Well, I participated along with many others. I think Bruce was actually part of this in the downtown plan of 2010, you know, going back a little ways. And we identified that what is now called the Broadway Connection as a catalytic redevelopment site. And so when the 794 highway got rebuilt, so first of all, the new highway, it's way higher off the ground. It's metal. There's no rebar. It doesn't drip on you. And when we built the Huron building, home of our friends at Hush Blackwell, we were able to work with the city of Milwaukee on a streetscaping TIF. And we put millions of dollars. We put $4 million into streetscaping and lighting and just doing all of these things. I'm speaking specifically about the Broadway part of this bridge, which I get is only, you know, one small part of it, but it's a delight. I walk underneath it every day, you know, to go to the Third Ward. It's fine. There's really nothing wrong with it anymore. You know, there's a lot of development happening. There's those pickleball courts off to the side, kind of along the river, also delightful. It's very nice. I keep mentioning Bruce, but I'm with something else he said earlier, which is I think this problem has been solved. I don't think we need to spend a lot more time on the 794 highway. Yeah. Instead, if people want to get creative about rethinking highways, you know, look at 43. You know, when that highway got built as a part of, you know, the mass, you know, creation of U.S. highways back in the 50s and 60s, it just built this terrible dividing line through Bronzeville from, you know, the east side. And everyone talks about it. I mean, every year we've got a new crop of, you know, 40 under 40 people and people winning awards, and everyone always asks them, you know, what would you like to see? How could Milwaukee be better? And everyone always talks about, well, we're this segregated city and we need to do something about that. Well, okay, we've got this giant highway that was built a long time ago that's dividing the city in a very physical way. I will also say, I don't know how you do this exactly, but if people want to put some energy into rethinking highways, that to me is one that's more deserving of some radical thought.
One of the...
I just want to add quick on the Huron building in Tupelo Honey, which is the tenant that went in there.
Yeah.
And the CEO came in on his Harley, and he was just, I have to be in the Third Ward. And so we literally had to hold his hand almost and walk underneath the now 35-foot clear, whatever it is, blue girder overpass.
There's pickleball courts
and to
under
have him visualize it, you can see it from the public market. Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, imagine if the Broadway on-ramp, the racetrack was gone, and you could actually see underneath all the way over to Central Standard, all the way over to those, you know, it goes back almost to when the North End was done, when pedestrians used to get to Juneau and turn around and go back, right? Mm-hmm. But once you start to see the built environment and you see there's a place to go, the pedestrians feel better about it, and they're going to go and check it out. And I think that's what's happening under the bridge, and that's what happened on the north end, so.
I mean, not to mention the public market is a draw. I mentioned pickleball courts, didn't
Over
I?
20 million in volume, by the way, too.
Just a little bit, right. You know, one of the things that was not on I think, our list, but we have to address, and Jeff, this is you, is this idea of the data center boom that we're certainly facing nationally. We were in San Francisco for the Urban Land Institute conference just 2 weeks ago, and that was the biggest session that people wanted to attend. Jeff, I remember a few years ago when I saw this little article from up in north of Milwaukee talking about, oh, somebody's assembling a bunch of land going on here. And a few years later, I found out it's Jeff Hoffman. Hunter, I'm sorry I didn't give you the tip on that other article. So Jeff, I mean, talk to us about the data center boom that we're seeing. You certainly know Port Washington. Are we going to see a lot more of this, or you feel like there's a crop, but this is about where we go?
So NVIDIA just announced blowout earnings this afternoon, so the boom continues. I think I'll speak specifically to Wisconsin. There will be a natural cap, and it's already coming. We're a regulated utility state, and so We Energies had a plan for $30 billion of investments, but being a regulated utility state, you need end customers to commit to that excess capacity. I know some folks in ATC who builds out transmission line. The utility business was flat to declining, and now it's this hockey stick curve of we got to build this as quickly as possible. I'll just the visual for everybody, because the numbers that are thrown around in this build out are just incomprehensible. So a gigawatt of power is enough to power the city of Manhattan, roughly. Okay, the current utility service area of We Energies, state line up to the UP, was 9 gigawatts of power, so 9 Manhattans, okay? With Microsoft and Vantage, what's been suggested Vantage could get up in Port Washington, they're gonna add about 4 to 5 gigawatts over the next 5 years, okay? So we're going to grow our electrical capacity, which was an extensive area for We Energies, by 50% in a roughly 5 to 7 year period. There will be a natural tap out point then. So I think this takes care of itself of the energy production that is needed for these and the assets necessary to service it. We're gonna tap out. So all the hyperscalers right now and all the developers, I need this as quick as possible. The money is inconsequential as long as we can get the speed to delivery. So that is lining up from now until 2030. The back build after that, nobody's thinking of. So right now it's just a mad rush. I don't even want to think about, and if you call somebody at We Energies right now, they don't have the bandwidth to consider large projects. Even if you said, hey, I need 10 megawatts, which is a traditional industrial project, like get in the back of the line, I might be able to do that for you in 18 months, okay? So by the time we get through this build out cycle, my estimation is that we will have a lot of physical assets built out. I think Andy mentioned, I think technology continues to improve. Is there going to be a bust? This feels fairly frothy. A guy that I work out this morning told me, he's like, hey, I got a 150-acre site in Adams County. Do you think it's a data center site? I said, Mark, absolutely not a data center site. So all of the bubble symptoms are there. The money is flying around freely. It's a mass build out. So I think Wisconsin's well positioned. I think it's got its plays. But are you going to keep seeing announcements every week? I think people are going to try. The reality is I think you're going to hit this cap with the utility providers.
Why do I have a feeling we might be in this room again in future years talking about data centers more?
By the way, I am a late Gen Xer, so Terminator 2 Judgment Day was one of my favorite movies growing up. This all solves itself in 2029, by the way, so just watch Terminator 2. I won't spoil the ending for you.
It's a happy ending, right?
All right. We're getting close. We have one more big question. This one's for Lafayette. This one's for our panel. So once again, Lafayette, vote once, please. Pull the question up, there we go. Which municipal policy, planning, and governance topic should the panel address first? See, I said this is just for you, Lafayette, I got you. Which municipal policy, planning, and governance topic should the panel address first? A would be our TIF policy changes. B would be best worst municipalities to work with. C would be new tools for challenging areas. D would be tariff impacts. We'll probably only have time to hit one of these very briefly. Brief comments from our panel. And survey says? We really are having coffee.
People want to vent it.
So we love Economilwaukee,
Yeah,
is what we've heard.
yeah, yeah. Mount Pleasant is great to work with too.
We love Mount Pleasant.
Yeah, and you know, part of the reason, speed, right? You can come in and you can have a project designed, you can meet with them, they will move you through their process, provide you certainty. You know, if interest rates change, you know, you can kind of mitigate some of those risks with speed. And that's why, you know, and I'm a little close to Mount Pleasant because I work with them on the Foxconn project when I worked for Governor Walker. That is one of the main reasons why Microsoft, they started with a smaller project there and they saw the speed of Mount Pleasant, and they said, that's a community we want to work with as we go forward. And I think from us, from a developer standpoint, that's critical. And, you know, we've heard it about inspections, we've heard it about all sorts of things. There's a role for government, and it's a legitimate role to protect the public health and safety, but I think we can do that more quickly.
Yeah. Really well said, Matt. Thanks. Josh?
Well, so I think in when you're thinking about best, worst municipalities to work in, and you know, one topic that came up a little bit earlier, and Matt hit on it, Johnny hit on it, you know, a lot of these projects that we work on require some sort of public sector involvement, assistance. And so I think that's a big factor to consider when you're looking at some of these cities, and do they have the tools available? Are they easily accessible? I've done a lot of work in different Milwaukee suburbs. I think the two biggest ones are here in Milwaukee, or I guess we're in Brookfield, over there in Milwaukee, and Racine. We've done a lot of work in Racine as well.
Yeah.
And I can definitely say Racine is like a smaller version of Milwaukee, just in terms of incentives that are available and going through the process. You know, one thing to kind of also keep in mind about doing business in Milwaukee is that is a big city, right? If you compare it to its peer group, you know, it's a very good city to do business in. It's very pro-development. We do work in Illinois and Texas. We love, in the state of Illinois, there are these so-called River's Edge cities, which is, you know, Rockford is a place where we're active, Elgin, Kankakee, Peoria. These are all cities that have a significant amount of incentives and historic buildings, which we really like. Mm-hmm. And, you know, not all municipalities are created equal, right? I was on a panel about 2 years ago, and somebody was asking me about, you know, how do we source deals, right? Do we... You know, so again, we do a lot of historic rehab, and somebody said, it's actually a great question. I was kind of like, maybe we should do that. Somebody said, do you look at what all the state historic tax credit incentives are, then rank them, and then go to those states and look where those credit programs are? And I kind of thought that is actually way more proactive than what we do. We kind of shop municipalities. We are looking for cities that want us. You know, a lot of the projects that we take on, again, they need help, they need assistance. These are public-private partnerships. So we want to partner with public sectors that want us there. And, you know, I guess I'll leave this particular city up in northern Wisconsin unnamed, but there was a city up north that had an RFP a few years ago for a historic building right along their riverfront. And they, you know, from the outset, they said, I hope you can make this work. We're going to want a huge underground parking garage, no TIF, no affordable housing, none of that stuff. You just got to completely make this work. And it was like, okay, well, we can save each other the time. You call me in 10 years when that hasn't worked, and, you know, see you later. As opposed to, again, I actually, part of the reason that we're in Milwaukee, it's our home base, it's our HQ. We really like doing business here because there are all the tools that are available. And we've had, I would say, an overall great experience. Yeah. And Lafayette, I want to make sure I get my gold star for later.
There we go.
Wait, I want a gold star too.
Yeah. Linda, you'll always get a gold star.
Thank you. You pay me to get a gold
To
star.
say that, sure.
Lafayette, you have a great staff. I mean, Lori Lutzka, Dan Casanova, Sam Michaeling. I mean, your team is really exceptional. But I'd say working with Oak Creek, you know, they were really great when we did the land assemblage of the 115 acres. Jeff, you know this. Oak Creek has been great to work with when we assembled Ryan Business Park, and we had to really move quickly. And I think that they were just a great municipality to work with.
And shout out to BizTimes, by the way, for doing this survey around some of these communities a while. I think it was back in April is when we did that, which is really great. So, team, I think we're at our time. Please join me in thanking our panelists today.